Hello everyone. Welcome to Everyday Prelims series of Shantha Lakshmi IAS Academy. So in this video, let us discuss the topics of 24th of September 2025. First, we are going to discuss about the short project of the World Bank, and second about the Oju Hydel project, and third about the L1 visa, and finally Libya African country mapping. So coming to our first topic, that is the Shore project of the World Bank. So why we are discussing this project right now? Because the World Bank will directly fund the mangrove councils, village mangrove councils under the Tamil Nadu Coastal Restoration Mission, TN Shore. And this TN Shore is part of the Shore project of the World Bank. So the World Bank will fund the village mangrove councils in the Tamil Nadu state for facilitating the bioshield enhancement by planting the mangrove plantations. So we'll see about this shore project of the World Bank as well as the TN Shore. What is this TN Shore project also? First, the SHORE project. The SHORE stands for the Strengthening Coastal Resilience and the Economy. This project is a part of the 850 million US dollars project. That is a program. 850 US million dollars program of the World Bank, which is meant to protect the coastal communities or support the coastal communities. And under this 850 million shore program, this shore project is the first approved project with a $212.64 million. And this project, $212.64 million project, first approved in the Indian states of Tamil Nadu and the Karnataka. And this $212.64 million project will be financed from the World Bank, that is the Indian Bank of Reconstruction Development, with a final maturity period of 23 years and even having the grace period of 6.5 years. So under this grace period means the Tamil Nadu government can start the repayment after 6.5 years. And the next, the land or the area targets. Under this shore project of the World Bank, it will aim to conserve or restore about the 30,000 hectares of the seascapes. And also it will support the 1 lakh people, the coastal people, through skill development by providing the employment opportunities and also by giving the income generation opportunities also. And under these beneficiaries, it will mainly focus on the women and the youth-led programs. Now, what are the objectives of the shore project? So, first is increase the coastal protection and the conservation. And the next is the reduce the marine plastic pollution and also improve the waste management and the circular economy. The next is the enhanced livelihood benefits and the income diversification. This can be done by providing the skill development courses to the coastal communities and also to strengthen the institutions and the integrated coastal planning by engaging with the central government, state government, and other institutions or whoever is aligned or involved in these coastal areas. So why this project, the shore project? The shore project of the World Bank is going to protect the coastal communities, right? But the first phase of this project is approved in the Indian states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So why only this project in India in the first phase? Because India has a vast coastline of more than 11,000 kilometers. See, under this 11,000 kilometers of coastline, one third of the coastline is vulnerable to the erosion and the extreme climate events. That means around 3,666.66 kilometers of this coastline are vulnerable to the coastal erosion and also other extreme climate events. And in India, around 250 million people depend on the coastal areas for their homes and the livelihoods. Around 250 million people in India are situated in the coastal areas, also depend on their livelihood opportunities on these coastal areas only. And these coastal areas are also habitat for around 18,000 known species of the flora and the fauna. So this is the potential of the India's coastline, the coastline. But there are also risks involved. Those risks are the coastal erosion. These communities are facing, or this coastal ecosystem is facing with the coastal erosion. The pollution, plastic pollution or the marine pollution, and the intensive fishing, the illegal fishing, the degradation of the mangrove forest, and also the urban pressures. So with these issues, the coastal ecosystem is in degradation and it is in the vulnerable situation. So, in order to protect the coastal ecosystem as well as to protect and address these problems facing by the people of living near these coastal communities, the World Bank has come up with this project called Shore Project. So, now coming to our TN Shore Project. As I already discussed that World Bank first approved this project with a rupees of 12.64 US million dollar rupees, right? So out of this, and this project has been approved in the Tamil Nadu and the Karnataka states, right? So out of this, it was first approved in the Tamil Nadu state with the name Tamil Nadu Coastal Restoration Mission with the financial outlay of 1,675 crore Indian rupees. And out of this 1,675 Indian crore rupees, World Bank will provide 1,000 crore rupees. And the remaining, the 675 crore will be given by the state government, that is the Tamil Nadu state government. And under this, the World Bank will support, that is, it will directly fund the mangrove councils. So who are these mangrove councils? These mangrove councils consist of a local resident and a community member as the president and as the forest range officer as the member secretary. And these mangrove councils are intended to facilitate the bioshield enhancements through mangrove plantation. Shield means a kind of protection, right? So bioshield means biologically we are protecting with some biological element. Here, mangrove plantation. We know that the mangroves protect the coastal system, right? So by planting more mangrove plantations across these coastal areas, we can protect the coastal areas from the coastal erosion and also other extreme climate and the weather events. So in order to protect the coastal areas with the mangrove plantation, there are mangrove councils in the Tamil Nadu state and this World Bank is directly supporting or funding these mangrove councils. Now, objectives of this TN Shore project, that is restoring the 30,000 hectares of seascapes and safeguarding the endangered species such as the turtles and the dugongs, and also supporting the sustainable practices such as the ecotourism and also the plastic waste management. So this is about the World Bank Shore Project and the TN Shore Project. Remember, World Bank Shore Project means it is intended to protect the coastal ecosystems and as well as to support the coastal communities. Now coming to a second topic, that is Ojo Hydel Project. So the central government has granted the environmental clearance to this Ojo Hydel project, which is coming up on the Subhansiri river of the Arunachal Pradesh, Upper Subhansiri district. And this Ojo Hydel project is strategically important for India. Why? Because China is coming up with the mega dam project at the Brahmaputra river. So if China construct that mega dam project at the Brahmaputra river, the states in India, that is Arunachal Pradesh and Assam, will face huge losses. That means the water which is meant to come to this Arunachal Pradesh and the Assam will be blocked at the mega dam project at this China only. So in order to counter the effects of this mega dam project in China, India is fast paced, quickening its process to establish more dams in the Arunachal Pradesh and the Assam. Previously, the Upper Siang Dam project has also got the clearance from the Environment Impact Assessment in Arunachal Pradesh only. Now, Ojo Hydel project also got the clearance. It is a run-of-the-river hydroelectric project. That means in that dam, the river water will not be stored, but those water will be used for generating the electricity. And location, that is at the Reddy village, Taksin block in the Upper Siang district of the Arunachal Pradesh state. This project is coming up on the Subhansiri river. It will utilize the water of the Subhansiri river. It is a project of 2,220 megawatt project and it is being developed by the Oju Subhansiri Hydropower Corporation Limited. It will have a 100-meter high concrete gravity dam and 14.12 kilometer headrest tunnel also. So this is the project. Now let's come to the Subansiri River. So the Subansiri, also known as the Gold River, it is a trans-Himalayan river and it is the largest tributary of the Brahmaputra river. It takes origin in Tibet and it flows through Arunachal Pradesh and the Assam. Its total length is of about 442 kilometers and includes the catchment area of approximately 32,640 square kilometers. Now coming to the course of this river, it rises in the Himalayan ranges of the Tibet near Mount Kapo. There it was known as the Loru Chu. And from then it flows east-west through the Tibet as the Loru Chu or the Chayal Chu. So in the origin, the Subansiri river is known as the Loru Chu. And then it enters the Arunachal Pradesh at the Lim King area of Upper Subansiri district. And in the Arunachal Pradesh, it flows through deep gorges, steep valleys, and hilly terrains of this upper as well as the lower Subansiri districts. And from then, it emerges into the plains near Gherukhamukh in the Assam Arunachal Pradesh border. And in Assam, it finally joins the Brahmaputra River at the Lakhimpur district of the Assam. So this is the course of the Subhansiri river. Now coming to the tributaries of the Subhansiri, we have the right bank tributaries of Ranganadi, Digrong and the Bhogi Nadi. And the left bank tributaries of Kamala, Kimin and the Panyur. Now coming to the projects over this Subhansiri river, that is the Subhansiri, Lower Subhansiri 2000 megawatt National Hydropower Corporation Limited, which is under construction at the Gherukhamukh. And the next, the Upper Subansiri projects, including Oju. Now coming to our third topic, that is L1 visa. So till now, in our previous everyday prelim series, we have discussed about the H1B visa, right? Because the US government has increased the H1B visa fee to $100,000. So that's why many are asking for or looking for the alternatives. The alternative is the L1 visa. So let's see what is this L1 visa is all about. So this L1 visa, like the H1B visa, is a non-immigrant work visa. Non-immigrant work visa only, but it will be given for the intra-company transfers. It will allow the US companies to transfer the executives, managers, or the employee with special knowledge from their foreign offices to their US offices. See, A is a US company. It has its companies in India. It established its companies in India. And in India, it has the it has the skilled personnel in role of executives, managers, the specialized knowledge. Now this parent company wants to utilize a person's knowledge in this parent company. So now the company can apply for the L1 visa for the employer and can take this a person to this parent company. So this is the L1 visa. It has a validity of up to 1 to 3 years with the extension also available depending on the L1A or the L12. So let's see the types of visas. That is the L1A visa for the executives and the managers. The maximum stay is 1 to 3 years, but for this L1A visa, this can be extended to up to 7 years. And now coming for the L1B visa, this is for the employees with specialized knowledge. That is with the unique skills, company procedures, technology, or any products. For this L1B visa employees, the maximum stay is only up to 5 years. Now, what is the eligibility to get this L1 visa? See that the employer must have a qualifying relationship. The employer who wants to get the employee from a foreign country to the parent country, that is the US, he must have a qualifying relationship, that he must be a parent company or any branch or subsidiary or the affiliate of that company which is situated in the foreign nation. Yes. And the next, the employee. So this is with respect to the employer, right? Now the employee must have worked for the foreign company at least one continuous year in the last 3 years. See, for an employee to get this L1 visa, he must have worked in the company continuously for 1 year in the last 3 years. The employee must be coming to the US to work in these roles only, that is the executive, managerial, or the specialized knowledge roles only. Only in these three roles only this L1 visa will be given. And only the company can petition, but not the individuals for getting this L1 visa. Now, key features, dual intent. This L1 visa holders can also apply for the green card. The blanket petition means the large multinational companies can file a single petition to transfer the multiple employees. The large multinational companies, instead of giving the one or the individual petition, they can sign a blanket petition containing the numbers or list of the multiple employees in a single petition, that is blanket petition. And the spouse and the dependent, the family's members can also accompany the L1 visa holder on the L2 visas. The family members of this L1 visa holders can get this L2 visas, and the spouses can also apply for the work authorization in the US. So this is the advantage of the L1, which is not available with the H1B visa. So what is the advantage of this L1 visa? See, now the H1B visa fees are hiked, so this can come at a low cost. And the multinational companies can apply it on a blanket petition. So means the process is soon, the quicker. But there is one disadvantage that the person who is coming on this L1 visa is restricted to his company only. They cannot transfer. See, the persons come from the X company. The person gets L1 visa from the X company and comes to the US. Then he works here and then he cannot shift to Y company. He has to stick to that company only. So this is one disadvantage of this L1 visa. And now coming to a final topic, that is Libya. So here you can see the Libya on the North Africa bounded by the Mediterranean Sea here. It's a country of the North Africa with the capital Tripoli, and most of this Libya lies in the Sahara Desert. And in these we have this Libyan desert also. Coming to the borders, it has Egypt on its east, Sudan on its southeast, Chad on its south, Niger on its southwest, Algeria on its west, and Tunisia on its northwest. Also, the maritime borders are Turkey, Greece, and the Italy. And see, as this most of the nation lies in the Sahara Desert, it has no permanent rivers. Libya has no permanent rivers. But how the water needs are met? See, that is through the wadis. Wadis means these are the seasonal streams which open when there is rainfall. And that comes from the Wadi Kham, Wadi Al Hayat, and the Wadi Al Meghnin. Whenever the rain falls during the rainy period only, these streams become active and they will give the water flow. And there is this one project, that is the Great Man-Made River Project, which was approved in 1990s under the Gaddafi's rule. So this Great Man-Made River Project is a huge irrigation project. It will utilize the fossil aquifers. As this Libya is a Sahara Desert area, right? So but under this, beneath the earth, there are some fossil aquifers, right? So this Great Man-Made River Project utilized the fossil aquifers in this Nubian sandstone aquifer system. So from this Nubian sandstone aquifer system, this Great Man-Made River Project will bring the water from this system and it will transport to the other areas of the Libya. So that's how the water conditions of this Libya people will be met. And it is dependent on the oil resources. The Libya, its economy dependent on the oil resources, and it is the fourth largest country in the Africa. So that's all for today. Thank you. And you can download this PDF from our Telegram channel, Shantha Lakshmi IAS Academy, which is where the link will be mentioned in the description. Thank you.